time. Well, again, welcome everyone. Looks like we've got a really good group of folks here from sponsors, from sites, from vendors in the clinical trial space, and we're really, really excited to have you all here with us today. And we're really excited also to talk to you about one of the most important and, as we all know, most challenging aspects in clinical trials, which is patient recruitment and enrollment. And in today's webinar, what we would like to share a little bit is a perspective around vendor collaboration to tackle this challenge and how we've seen this type of collaboration and partnership really drive successful outcomes for sponsors, for sites, and most importantly, for our patients. And specifically, we'll be using the example of the partnership between OneStudyTeam and Patient Advertising Guru, now also known as CSSi. You'll hear these names kind of being used interchangeably. And the two organizations, we've really worked together for years and have come together, in our opinion, to redefine recruitment and pre-screening as one cohesive end-to-end process. And we're really excited to be here to share our learnings and insights with you all. Awesome. Well, we'll do a quick round of intros on who the speakers are today. As a quick intro, I'm Jessica Ng. I lead our partnerships efforts here at OneStudyTeam, and I am very honored and excited to have Ken Wallace here with me. Ken is a VP at Patient Advertising Guru, or CSSi. I'll pass it to him to do a quick intro of himself and about the company.
I appreciate that. Yeah, as you said, Ken Wallace, VP here at Patient Advertising Guru, CSSi. I found myself in the patient recruitment game back in 1990, whatever. And every gray hair I have is a testament to my longevity in this crazy business. Over the years, I've done and executed, planned, and managed just about every sort of program designed to create awareness of and generate responses for clinical research globally in just about every therapeutic category with every size and type of trial. And it's that experience we bring to bear, along with the other senior leaders at CSSi, on all of the projects on which we work. And I'm thrilled to be here today.
Awesome.
All right, a little bit of background on who we are and what we do. But CSSi, we're a full-service integrated marketing company exclusively focused in the patient recruitment industry. And we believe we deal with both sides of the funnel, right, or both sides of the process. We're exceptionally good at generating programs designed to create awareness of and generate responses and provide referrals for clinical research in all of its forms. We're going to talk a lot about advertising today, but of course, that's but one way to create awareness of the study in and around where the sites are located. But on the other side of the funnel, where we excel, since this company was founded back in 2005, incidentally, 19 years ago yesterday, CSSi was launched by a gentleman named Chris Trisna. But our goal was to support the sites. And we're going to talk a lot about that today, right? Generating a referral for the sake of generating referral does nobody any good. The goal is to help that site maximize their enrollment potential by giving them the tools and the support and the infrastructure they need to manage that referral flow and manage the relationship that we're ultimately hoping that they establish with those patients, right? So we work a lot with major pharmaceutical companies, biotech companies, and CROs globally to execute large centralized programs. But we also have a side of our business that works on the other side of the spectrum, which is with sites directly. Because back in 1990, whatever, it was not uncommon for sponsors to give sites $5,000 to advertise with. And they'd have to come up with the right strategies and the right creative. How am I going to reach the right people with the right messages and motivate them to respond and drive referrals into my site? Fast forward to 2024, it's not uncommon for sponsors to give sites $5,000 to advertise with. It has not gone up with the times. So the trick becomes, how do we efficiently utilize those advertising dollars locally to help sites do the things that they need to do to generate a flow of referrals into their site? And then, of course, on top of that, the collaboration. How do we help them manage the relationship with those referrals? So we treat that from both sides. We can work in large global centralized programs with a variety of site support by our local enrollment specialists who can go into each of these sites and work really closely to go into the community, work with advocacy groups, do chart reviews, do all of the things the sites wish they could do if they had the time. And then on the other side of the spectrum, we work with sites directly to help them essentially not have to become marketers and not have one more task on the ever overburdened shoulders of the study coordinator to say, how do I advertise for this protocol when I have 20 other protocols that I need to advertise on? So that's where we're approaching this from today, is kind of the best of both worlds, referral generation and relationship and referral management.
Great. Thank you, Ken. And a really quick snapshot of OneStudyTeam. For those of you who may not know us, we were founded in 2017. We are headquartered in Boston, Massachusetts, and what we offer is a cloud-based software and enrollment solutions. And our cloud-based software is called StudyTeam, for those of you who may have already worked with us. It's really a solution that we offer for sponsors, for sites, for CROs, really with the mission to accelerate the development of new and life-saving therapies, and really ultimately to kind of speed up enrollment of clinical trials. We similarly with Patient Ad Guru CSSi, we work very closely with a large sponsor customer base across over 105 countries. We work with 70% of the top 10 pharma companies. We work with mid-sized biotechs, as well as over 7,000 research sites. So for us, really, the most important thing is to make sure that all the stakeholders in this ecosystem are really optimized to do their best work. And a lot of our focus around our software and the solutions is really to ensure that all these bottlenecks and kind of enrollment challenges can be some of these obstacles we can solve together as an ecosystem of solutions for all the stakeholders in this space. So that's a very quick snapshot of what we do on OneStudyTeam side. So let's dive right into the meat of kind of what this webinar is about. And we wanted to start off by talking a little bit about our partnership and how this whole thing really got started. So rewinding back, I would say a few years ago, on the OneStudyTeam side, we kind of, as I mentioned, really had a belief that we really needed to collaborate with different vendors in our ecosystem to drive our mission to accelerate clinical trial enrollment. And so what this means was that we needed to really open up our software platform and essentially what we call like build an API, right? So that external vendors can integrate into our product easily and seamlessly. Patient Ad Guru at the time was one of our earliest partners who also really championed this idea with us that there is a world where two different and completely unaffiliated vendors could and should be working together. And specifically, we really believe that there was such a big opportunity here where we could work together to deliver a much better experience for sites. And that was just, a no-brainer and a game changer for the industry. So that's what we did. We started off, kicked off our first trial, integrated our two systems back in April 2021. And that one trial turned into now 26 trials. And we've worked together for over 10,000 patients over the years. And throughout that collaboration, we enhanced our technical integration. We optimized the operational collaboration between our two teams. And most importantly, we have a lot of repeat customers who have been very happy with our results and are always turning to kind of our partnership to help solve some of their problems. And I think Evan Brett, as you see, he's the founder of Patient Ad Guru. He kind of put it succinctly, the sponsor is not only working with two sort of best-in-class providers and an all-star team, but when these two best-in-class providers are working together, 1 + 1 is, greater than 2. And that's why we do this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great point. If we just real quick, when on the referral generation side of the business, we understand that we can be very good at saying the right thing at the right time to the right people, motivate them to reply, to find out more about this trial. But we found that generating referrals for the sake of generating referrals was not the answer. The answer is generating those referrals and giving sites a platform where they're able to manage those referrals and the relationship they're going to ultimately establish with those referrals. Now, whether we're simply generating those referrals or we're inserting our local enrollment specialists to run them through a robust secondary screen and answer all their questions and talk about what participating in a study is like, and then ultimately still providing that highly engaged, highly eligible referral to the sites, many sites still have fractured attentions where they've got multiple protocols going on at any one time. So giving them the tools they need internally to manage, whether it's just a general referral we send or a highly engaged, highly eligible referral we send, the trick is giving them the tools they need to manage that relationship. And OneStudyTeam is simply the best at doing that, which is why we were so keen on establishing this relationship so many years ago.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. And maybe we would love to share kind of one of the examples of how we worked together in a case study of a successful outcome. One of our joint customers, which is a top 5 sponsor, was really struggling with recruitment on an endocrinology heart failure study. Sites were just, really having a hard time finding patients. And when they do find them, a lot of the time the patients are not qualifying and the consent rate was very, very low. The sponsor, through the data that they were seeing in StudyTeam, recognized that this was an issue and decided that a rescue campaign was needed at this time to kind of turn around the trial. And they turned to CSSi and OneStudyTeam to help solve this problem. And I remember this very clearly because overnight it was all our teams just got together very quickly. We both did our own setup very quickly, did our own thing, and then turned on the integration immediately. And sites were receiving referrals within 48 hours of the sponsor kind of notifying us that this is something that they wanted to do. And as we all know here, time is of the essence when it comes to recruitment and especially rescue campaigns. And the speed that we were able to just turn this on immediately and work so well together was really impactful. And the results were equally impressive, right? So because of the data that StudyTeam had, the sponsor was able to see, and CSSi was also able to optimize their campaigns very repeatedly and quickly. And CSSi's referrals had a 7% consent rate, which was more than 5% higher than what sites were seeing in their own patients, which was less than 2%. And as I mentioned, CSSi was constantly monitoring these metrics and adjusting their campaigns to make sure that, this was a successful campaign. And they were getting all of that data from working with OneStudyTeam. And this, is really a testament to what a big difference this made. And it was really impressive and showed that CSSi's referrals really had a significant impact. They sent in almost 1,500 patients for this very fast and furious rescue campaign. 100% of these patients were acknowledged and worked on by sites in the StudyTeam platform. And ultimately, we had 13 randomizations, and it was considered a very, very successful rescue campaign for the sponsor. So this is a really just quick case study of things that, we were able to achieve as part of the partnership. And we want to do this, and we are doing this kind of trial after trial.
Yeah, the thing that continues to strike me about that is the speed with which it all happened. From first identifying almost separately of the need to do 2 different types of things, to understanding that we both could do those 2 different types of things, to actually operationalizing it and making it work, especially in rescue mode, as you mentioned, Jessica, was incredible, because we are not in an industry that generally moves as quickly as it needs to. And looking back at how quickly we went from the idea of a collaboration to starting to deliver referrals and being able to use the data to actualize and optimize the campaign was incredible.
Yeah. Thanks, Ken, for sure. All right. Well, I'm sure that now you've kind of heard about our results. You may be interested to understand kind of how we are doing this, right? So I think that's what we wanted to talk a little bit about next, to share a little bit how we're doing this and are continuing to do this. I would say first and foremost, the between the two organizations, we agreed on problem statements. Like, what is the problem that we're seeing that we jointly wanted to solve together? And these were statements that sort of we recognized back in 2021 and for our first pilot trial, and we continue to feel very strongly about these today. So firstly, we identified jointly that a lot of people don't know, have any knowledge about clinical trials. So there is a need to go educate and go reach those people. And secondly, more referrals means more work for the sites. Referrals are great, and it's really, really helpful and so critical to the success of clinical trials. However, we do have to acknowledge that it does mean more work and more burden on the sites who are already very busy. And lastly, kind of to Ken's point earlier, sites have to have so many portals. They don't really have a very streamlined workflow where they can manage referrals, but also like track how the referrals are doing. And they're also grabbing these referrals from a different portal, from their emails, from phone calls, from voicemails. There's just so many channels that sites have to go grab these referrals and manage them that we felt that there was a better way. So this was really, I think, zooming out the challenges that we jointly identified as an industry. And so when we work together between CSSi and OneStudyTeam, we kind of came up with this sort of two-part solution. It really is sort of half CSSi's strengths and half of OneStudyTeam's strengths, right? Really, number one, driving high-quality referrals, which is really finding the right patients at the right time. This is CSSi's strengths. And then secondly, enabling effective patient visit management with sites. So optimizing workflows, removing bottlenecks so that patients are able to go through the enrollment funnel like most efficiently. That's what, OneStudyTeam does best. And so jointly, this was sort of a two-part solution that we kind of focused on to make sure that we are delivering what we think is a better joint outcome for all the stakeholders involved. So next, we'd like to kind of walk you through this a little bit more in detail. There's really, I think, we summarized it into like 3 best practices or 3 steps in which we've done this. So I'm going to let Ken take over step 1 and 2, which is really CSSi's strengths here. And then I will talk about sort of step 3 from the perspective of OneStudyTeam and how we've done this. So Ken, take it away.
I appreciate it. And she's right. This is where it all comes together. It's the best of both sides of the equation. It's creating the right awareness, it's generating the right response, and giving the sites the tools they need to manage it. I mean, if we go back and we think about what we're asking people to do, it's a foreign concept, right? We're all in the clinical trial space. We're all in the clinical trial business. We know how it works. We know how the rights of participants are protected. We know what a participant in a clinical trial can expect. But everyone else outside of the industry, it's a completely foreign concept. Previously to, I would say, COVID, the only thing people knew about clinical research is the bad news they read about some poor misfortune that might have happened in a clinical trial somewhere. But in big air quotes, the one good thing that might have come out of COVID is that it educated people a little bit about what the clinical trial process is like. But even still, with that little bit of knowledge, anytime someone sees an ad or is introduced to the idea of participating in a clinical trial in some way, we're asking them to take this huge leap of faith. Our goal, and it is incumbent upon us to continually reward the leap that they took by ensuring that their experience is a good one, that they feel valued, and giving the sites the tools to manage that relationship so that they feel good, the patients, the referrals, they feel good about the choice they made as they continue on in the process is key. So it starts with that awareness and the action, and it ends with the site's ability to make sure that they feel valued for everything that they've done. So step 1, as we see here, it's making sure that people are aware of the opportunity. Most people are just not aware that clinical trials are even an option for them. So if there's a chronically afflicted patient population out there and there are new medications that they're trying and failing, or they're unaware or unable to get them, or access is limited. There's any number of reasons why someone might ultimately want to consider a trial, right? So the goal is to figure out who do we need to reach for a specific trial in an area where the trials are located, because everything we want to do has to be geolocated, right? We want to make sure that first things first, it's geographically feasible for somebody to participate. And if it's not, none of it else really matters. So we have to figure out what are the ways, what are the best strategies in order to let people know about the clinical trial. Then, of course, there's the creative side. What do we tell them? And it's always a balance, right? If creatively I know exactly what to tell someone about this particular clinical trial opportunity, yet strategically where I'm putting that message is off, it's not going to resonate. It's not going to reach the right people. They're not going to respond. Conversely, if I know exactly where I need to put this message to reach the people I need to reach about this specific opportunity, yet my creative is off, it's not showing the right thing, it's not saying the right thing, it's not going to work. So we have to balance that. We have to make sure that we're saying the right things, showing the right things, and putting those things in the right places to motivate people to respond. And respond is the key here, right? Because it's relatively simple, air quotes again, to create awareness of something. But our goal always is to generate a response. We want people to see what we're saying, identify with it, make some sort of a decision, and make the pathway to response easy so they can decide as close to right now whether this is an option for them or a family member and respond, right? So as we look for ways to create awareness of those messages, there's limitless ways that you can do it, right? So whether we're working centrally on a big global campaign or we're working locally with a local site's $5,000, we have decisions to make strategically about where are we going to place this. Even though we do a lot of traditional advertising, we end up finding ourselves online all of the time, especially with those local site programs. But even online, there are so many different places that you can place your ads, your messages. But we always have to follow a direct response philosophy. Where are we reaching people when they're most amenable to respond, right? So if I'm McDonald's and I want to advertise my fresh beef quarter pounder, I'm going to put some commercials out there. I don't expect you to turn off the TV or turn off your computer or put down your phone, grab your keys, get in the car and go get a quarter pounder right now. I'd love it if you did, but that's not the goal. Our goal is to metaphorically have people walk out of the house and get that hamburger as close to right now as possible. So we need to make sure that we're putting the messages in a place and at a time when people are willing and able to do that. So there are places. So you see some examples up there, Google and Facebook. Google is great because it captures a person at an expressed moment of interest. I am searching for this thing, a solution for this problem, a way to treat this disease or condition. And we can insert our message into their search findings. Great. But then you've got your more passive ways, and that social media is great for that, right? Whether people know it or not, but when they're on social media, they're scrolling through Facebook, they're scrolling through Instagram or TikTok or wherever, whether they know it or not, they're actively consuming information. Whether that information is something cute their niece or nephew did before or what their neighbor had for dinner, it doesn't matter. They're actually consuming information. Our goal is to insert our message, our words and pictures, into that consumption so that they pause for that millisecond to say, this looks like something I or a family member might be interested in. Stop, read what we're saying, make a decision as close to right now as possible to find out a bit more, not to decide to participate, right? That decision comes much, much later, even enough to figuring out if they're qualified or not. But we just want them to take an action. I want to find out more about this opportunity right now. So we need to drive them somewhere. We need to drive them to a website or a landing page, something that includes just the right amount of information to let them know if the opportunity could be right for them. We never recommend that our websites or our landing pages become encyclopedias on all the things. It doesn't have to be an encyclopedia on the disease and condition. They can tell us what it's like living with their disease or condition. It doesn't have to include every element of what the clinical trial is all about. It doesn't have to have every entry criteria. But what it does need to have is just the right amount of information to say, yeah, this sounds like something I might be interested in. Let me find out more, and then make the pathway to response and ultimately getting to the site as quick and seamless as possible, right? And that's the ultimate key. We wanted to drive that awareness, influence that educational process, and then drive that referral to the site as close to right now as possible. And that's filling the top of the funnel, right? And they become at that point a referral. And many different things can happen, to the referral at that point. But before we even get there, the goal is, how do we reach the right people? So when you're looking at something like Facebook or Instagram or some of the other social media platforms, it's very easy to set it and forget it. You can just, basically anybody can set up an account and put an ad on there. But the trick is targeting and optimizing and ensuring that you're reaching the right people, because the reaching someone for the sake of reaching them does nobody any good. So the goal is to start with your core participant, right? It used to be, Facebook continues to evolve. So it used to be where you could target someone based on a disease or condition. Made it nice and easy. Can't do that anymore. Used to be able to target people in a geolocated fashion. More difficult to do that now. It used to be that if you put an image, it couldn't have any text on it. Now the image needs to have text. So staying on top of what we need to do to ensure that our ads get shown is key. But that's not the end of it. The goal is, how do we refine? How do we optimize over time to ensure that we're reaching the right people? So it starts at a straight demographic play. Who's our core participant in this particular clinical trial? And we'll build our audience with that. Then, as individuals interact with our ads, as they view them, click on them, get to the landing page, submit their information, and become a referral in a de-identified way, our system, we've built some proprietary programming algorithms and some AI on the back end of some services that Meta, the owner of Facebook and Instagram, already have, that enable us to refine and optimize our targeting. We can, in a de-identified fashion, we're learning what makes this person special, what makes them unique, and more importantly, what makes them targetable. And the goal then is to target more people like that. The goal ultimately is to have fewer higher quality impressions and drive fewer higher quality clicks to the website. The crazy thing about Facebook or Meta, I can spend that site's $5,000 in 5 minutes, or I can spend that site's $5,000 over 5 years. It's all how you dole out the impression load, right? So what we've kind of established over time is parameters by which we can manage that impression load. We don't want to reach the same person 10 times. They've decided. They either clicked on it or they didn't click on it. Continuing to show it to them doesn't do anybody any good. I'd rather reach 5 people 2 times. It's still 10 impressions, but the latter are more quality impressions. So that's the goal. We don't set it or forget it. We continually modify and optimize and refine our targeting over time so that we can ensure that we're reaching the right people and motivating as many of them as possible to ultimately want to find out more about the clinical trial.
All right. Now back to OneStudyTeam. So, everything sort of that Ken had walked through, all the hard work and kind of proprietary technology that CSSi has put in to find these referrals, like educate people about clinical trials, finding the right patients at the right time. It would be a shame if those patients and referrals went nowhere. And that's really kind of step 3, right? How do we optimize the workflow? How do we remove all the bottlenecks so that we're optimizing outcomes for, in our opinion, all 4 critical stakeholders in this ecosystem, to make sure that all of those patients are coming in, they're not dropping out the funnel, and we're really kind of moving forward our mission to enroll faster, right? So that is really kind of OneStudyTeam's area where we've spent a lot of time thinking about, and I wanted to kind of share kind of what jointly we feel is really the right kind of philosophy that has been critical to our success. So stakeholder 1, right? Sites. We've got these great patients. How do we make sure that they get passed on to sites? We all also know that sites are overburdened. So we need to make sure that the technology and the processes that we're putting in for sites are really optimizing for their workflow. It's really alleviating the burden. It's really a system that they feel that they love and that they think is really easy to use. So that's really important as stakeholder 1. Stakeholder 2, in our opinion, the sponsors, right? Sponsors have so much data all the time from all different vendors in all sorts of formats across all sorts of timelines that it's sometimes a little challenging to make a really strong data-backed decision. So in our view, it's really important that sponsors have all the information that they need in a consolidated way in a single pane of glass to make these very critical data-driven decisions to track performance and update their strategies for recruitment and enrollment. Stakeholder 3, the vendors themselves. Like, when we partner with CSSi, we want to make sure that when we're working with CSSi, that they are able to go continuing to kind of work on their magic, their secret sauce, right? We want to preserve that to make sure that they're doing their best work and in fact, like, make each other better. So this means that, whatever data we're getting, we want to make sure that CSSi and other vendors are getting back that data, and that our integration and infrastructure allows for that seamless real-time data exchange both ways. And lastly, patients, right? Everything we do today is for our patients. And we do see that when sites, sponsors, and all the vendors in a trial can remove these barriers to enrollment, we can really minimize the eligible and interested patients from falling through the cracks. And I wanted to talk to you all a little bit about kind of how we do this on OneStudyTeam, because I think with the collaboration with our partners like CSSi, we've come to a really sort of repeatable framework that has proven a lot of success, like the case study that we walked through. We have a offering today called Referral Partner Interface, or RPI for short. And for example, when CSSi sends in their referrals, now they're going directly through this offering into our platform, which is called StudyTeam for Sites. And sites are already using the StudyTeam platform to pre-screen patients from their own database. And now they're using our platform to also receive these referrals and track these referrals without needing to go log into another portal, without needing to go check their voicemails or grab referrals from other channels. And this really kind of alleviates a lot of site burden, and sites really love this and appreciate this. At the same time, we also have a sponsor view of our platform where sponsors, as I mentioned, as kind of the stakeholder number 2, can track in a de-identified manner the recruitment and enrollment progress of their trial in real time. They're tracking the performance for not only the referrals, but the site's own database of patients. And together, this joint data set is really, really powerful. It gives sponsors really powerful insights to help them make very critical decisions on a day-to-day basis, like which sites need more support, or on a more kind of higher level of, are we spending the right money on the right channel? Is there kind of reasons why patients are falling through? Like, are there specific IE criteria that we need to amend? What is our ROI on our investments? So a lot of these decisions are kind of presented to sponsors in our portal in a very consolidated manner. And last but not least, of course, we want to make sure that CSSi gets all the information that they need to proactively, preserve their magic, right? And this is really kind of enforced in this two-way data exchange, which means that CSSi is getting all of this information back in real time, and they can proactively adjust their campaigns and tactics with even more comprehensive information at their fingertips as they normally would. So, that's really sort of how we do this here on the OneStudyTeam side, and how we worked with CSSi around this framework. So that was really kind of the 3 kind of in-depth steps that we wanted to walk through with kind of how we've achieved some of this success. We hope that was helpful and provided some really good insights for you all. We also wanted to kind of step back for a second and kind of reflect a little bit on our lessons learned and things that we've kind of learned over the few years. And I'll pass the mic to Ken in a second for him to share his thoughts as well. But I think from our perspective on OneStudyTeam, when vendors like ourselves are collaborating towards the best outcome rather than trying to undermine each other, like 1 + 1 really is like greater than 2. And it's really about kind of for us stepping back and recognizing that every vendor has our own strengths, and we should be playing to our strengths and make sure that gets amplified so that we're all doing our best work. I think back to that case study, without this like collaboration, without both trying to do the best thing for the sponsor and for the sites and for the patients, we wouldn't have been able to just kind of turn these things on so quickly and so seamlessly. And so that collaboration is just so critical, in our opinion, to really driving success for the broader industry. Ken, I'd love to hear your thoughts as well.
Yeah, I agree. Throughout my entire career, 20 plus years in patient recruitment, I've always embraced the philosophy of collaboration. Always felt it was best to maintain a core internal capability, do well the things you do well, and then augment through strategically selected third parties and partners who are really good at what they do. So there's no reason for us to try and build something like this poorly. It makes sense to collaborate with a company that does it already, who has the same overarching philosophy of collaboration. So as Jessica said, we can truly be greater than the sum of our parts, and we can bring that true value to our clients. I think as an industry, right, we all need to embrace the idea of collaboration. And I know on our side, it is probably becoming more common where we are part of a team of disparate providers who do something just a little bit special. That could one of the other providers do it? Yeah. But could they do it as well as this other provider that does it every day? Maybe not. But it makes sense to work collaboratively and closely to ensure that at the end of it all, our client, our sponsor's goals are met. Because as they say, rising tide lifts all boats, right? We want to make sure that we do the best job we can do. OneStudyTeam wants to do the best job they can do. And if we're then able to use the data that they provide and do all of that enable us to be better, then everyone wins. Our sponsor wins, we win, they win, the sites win, the patients win, everybody is happy. So I think the overarching take home is let's not resist the opportunities to collaborate. Let's not resist to go out into the marketplace and find someone who does something a little special that may make us all better. But when that opportunity presents itself, wrap your arms around it and start sending referrals in like 4 days, like we did back in 2021, because who knows, in a few years, maybe you'll get to do a webinar too.
Amazing. Thank you, Ken. And 100% agreed. I think the results speak for themselves. I think we have proven that between the collaboration between our two companies in really kind of delivering that win-win-win across all the parties. And we're really excited to continue collaborating with other vendors in the industry to deliver even better outcomes for everyone. So thank you all for joining us. We hope that was interesting and helpful. And we're excited to continue advancing kind of everybody's mission here to make clinical trials better. I think we'll pause here and see if there are any questions that we could answer. All right. Let's see. All right, let me pull up the chat here. Maybe it looks like maybe a question for Ken here. How do you see CSSi differentiating from other kind of recruitment vendors in general?
That's a great question. I think our biggest differentiator is that we approach recruitment, as I sort of touched on earlier, from both sides of the operational implementation, right? So we're very, very good at strategically and creatively deciding how we need to create awareness of a clinical trial opportunity to generate that response and motivate people to want to find out more. But on the other side of the equation, we have a team of former study coordinators or other medical professionals who work in a site setting that we can deploy locally to do a variety of things. That can start with vetting that referral by running them through a robust secondary screener. We can answer all the questions that they may have. We can discuss what participation in a study looks like so that by the time that referral gets to the site, they're highly eligible and highly engaged, which minimizes the burden at the site level. At the same time, those LESs can be deployed in myriad ways in and around the site to help do the activities that in an ideal world, the site would want to do themselves to create awareness of that study in and around their community. So whether it's engaging with a referral network of physicians, whether it's going out to events like health fairs or other community events, whether it's going to local walks in a particular therapeutic category, whether it's doing chart reviews the site doesn't have time to do, all of the things that in an ideal world the site would do on their own if they had the time and the manpower, but don't, our LESs can do, and they can do that globally. Sometimes what we find at the site level, they might know exactly all of the steps they need to take and all of the things they need to do. They just don't have the time because they have so much going on. And we all know the penalty for having a good idea is more work. But if they have someone they can express that idea to who says, well, I can go to that event for you. I can send those letters for you. I can go to that meeting for you. I can do that presentation for you. It changes the game and makes the sites more willing to offer suggestions about how they can be best. And what we say is that our goal in everything that we do is to maximize the site's ability to enroll. We want them to be able to meet whatever it is they wrote in the feasibility questionnaire at the beginning, because we're going to give them not only the referrals, but the local hands-on support to get them there. I think that's probably our biggest differentiator.
Awesome. Thank you. I have a question about how does Patient Ad Guru or CSSi know the results of their work so that they could continue to optimize? And I can answer this question. I think, as I mentioned, it was very, very important to us that CSSi continues to get all the information that they need, that they normally would need, to make sure that they're continuing to perform at the level, very high level that they're performing at. So the way that we've structured sort of our partnership is that any information from StudyTeam that sites are inputting into our system, Patient Ad Guru, CSSi gets all of that information back in real time. And, you know, as sites are using our portal quite often and they love kind of using and updating data in our portal, sometimes I think, you know, we've heard that CSSi has gotten even more information back than they normally would, and they can really utilize that information to kind of adjust their campaigns in real time. So that data and feedback loop is so critical to this partnership. And that's really how Patient Ad Guru CSSi has really kind of continuing to optimize their campaigns.
Yeah.
All right. I have a few questions here about global. Are our services available globally across a couple of regions? It looks like a couple of questions about countries. I'm happy to speak about OneStudyTeam side, and I'll let Ken speak as well. On the OneStudyTeam side, our platform and the infrastructure that we work with partners on is available in over 105 countries today. So in all these regions where StudyTeam is available, we are able to offer this service to all of those countries. And maybe, Ken, you could talk a little bit about kind of CSSi's coverage as well.
Absolutely. We are a truly global company as well. We've deployed our services both in the outreach side and the local enrollment specialist support side all over the world. And we have a really good handle on where our services are most utilized and can bring that counsel whenever we're queried about, you know, where we think the best utilization of our resources is.
Awesome. Cool. And then a question here about what type of data do sponsors receive from StudyTeam? I can take a stab at that question. So we have a interface reporting really portal for sponsors called StudyTeam for sponsors. And I really kind of, I would say, like, maybe categorize it into like three main things that sponsors get. So one, site, like insights into how sites are doing, right? Sites, there's a lot of kind of information at a site level to understand, hey, maybe this site needs a little bit more support. Let's go, you know, talk to the site, see what kind of challenges that they're having, sort of as one category of reports that you would get. Second, reasons why some patients are falling out. So things like, why are some patients declining to participate? Is it that there's like, it seems too complicated, they don't like placebo, there's a lot of reasons why patients are kind of declining, or is it because there's a exclusion criteria across trials that is outdated, right? We can utilize some of that data to prevent the unnecessary exclusion of certain subsets of patients. And then lastly, I would say, I think maybe more specific even to referrals, how does a sponsor is able to kind of evaluate budgets to ensure that they are, maximizing their ROI and spending the right money in the right way, and continuing to invest in the recruitment sources that are really driving patients. And for example, like with that case study we had, showing that, hey, this patient channel really from CSSi is driving like X% more consent rates than, site's own patients. So this is where we should be kind of investing more into. So I would say those are really at high level, the types of data that sponsors are able to receive from StudyTeam and from this partnership. All right.
Yeah, I think a good add-on to that, the data helps because, right, in an ideal world, there's unlimited budget to all of the things that everybody wants to do to accomplish the objectives, but we live in the real world and there are always some budgetary limitations. So it becomes incumbent on all of us to figure out the best way to effectively deploy those resources. The data that comes back to us helps us decide where to deploy those resources, right? So you could be looking at your site list and seeing that you've got a portion of your sites that are just enrolling like gangbusters. They're just doing it because they're amazing. You've got a portion of your sites, for whatever reason, they're just not engaged with the protocol. They're not enrolling as rapidly. They're not screening. They're not doing the activities that are required to move the needle. And then you've got this core group of sites in the middle that are trying, they're screening and enrolling, but need a boost. So as you're looking at how do we deploy those resources, you have this abundance of data that help us say, we don't need to support the sites that are going like gangbusters. They're doing it. And do we really need to expend additional resources, at least at this point, on the sites that haven't engaged well with the protocol? If we've got limited resources, let's focus this on this group of sites that the data shows are engaged, they're trying, they're doing. They just need a nudge. That's where we can put the resources. And the data is great at helping us make those decisions.
Awesome. Well, I can see that we're actually at time. I know we had a lot of 45 minutes for this webinar, and we want to make sure we're conscious of everybody's time here today. But thank you so much for joining, and thank you for all your questions. We really appreciate your time here with us today, and hope you all learned a little bit and found some of our insights exciting and interesting. So thank you all for your time. Please reach out to either of us to chat more if you want to learn more about our partnership or about what our companies do. Yeah. Thank you so much, all.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I really appreciate it. And I do see some questions here. And if it's possible, we can respond to these one-on-one, because I want to make sure that they get addressed. There's some good ones in there that I'd love to tell you more about. But it's been a thrill. I've enjoyed it so much. And Jessica and the OneStudy team, thank you for including me.
All right. Thank you all.
Take care.
Bye.